a task. Were you able to do some people posted on Git in our classroom? That's okay. And anyone successfully done that? Have you achieved it? Anyone? I given a task yesterday, na? Successfully done, able to do it. Achieved what I asked you with polymorphism. Yes. That means actually, what about others? Anyone else tried? If you keep on trying these tasks, then you will get perfection on what you have learned, right? So one point is, if you are unable to handle I have seen that you posted in the classroom now, right? I will see that, right? So actually, one simple tip I will give you actual. So with that, one more time, try a different point here. Actual, so we have a function. Function is a demo. This demo function is having some basic option here, that is means with parameter or without parameter. Just we have a definition here. This function is having a simple string str, or say name. So username as a string type parameter we are defining, and it is void. So void return type. So that is the function actually. That is the function. So we just declared a function. We just declared a function. So and defined one function. So there is another function. So that is demo. So uname, and it is a string. And you have password. So that is also a string, and it is a void. So void type, and nothing is defined here. So we are creating some function. Some verify is the function name, and here also verify is the function name. And it is showing a problem that same name function cannot be there. So same name function cannot be there. Duplicate function. So that means it is overloading. Duplicate function is configured. So here generally when we define the function here and we are implementing, function verify is again configured here. And we need to handle the situation. That means is provided with one parameter, then what to do? If provided with multiple parameters, and what to do? We need to handle that situation. Here currently this is possible to define in separate classes. And we can define some implementation here. So we are expecting, so uname, it is a string type and it is void, and here we are defining one functionality. Means what you have to try is, so you try this mechanism. You try this mechanism. So that means create a function, and that function will have two options to handle. I will give you some examples somewhere our people have done that. Right. That means the basic functionality related example, how that happens actually. Somewhere polymorphism or some methods. Okay. Huh. Somewhere other examples are there, I will give you, right? Mm. I will upload one example by seeing that, at least try that option actually. Method demo. This is a method demo. This you will learn in generics. This is the general approach. Okay, I will upload the example by the end of the day. Right? One example, by seeing that you try. Somewhere it will be. So by seeing that you try that. That means actual concept is, the point is, we can create a function overloaded like this. We can create a function overloaded in this way. You need to implement the functionality for that. This is possible. You can configure the functions in this way. You declare them and you try them in this way. You can use anything. You use lambda expression or not, you can try anything. Right? So I will give you one more day, you try. So I given you a small hint, right? You can try like this. A function can be defined in this way. So you try this. So this is overloading actually, configuration of overloading of function actually. So that means generally, suppose if I write a function, suppose some calculator is a function. It is expecting some a and it is expecting b value. So, and it has to print a and b value. So this is one function. So that means we have to just put here console.log. So it has to print value of a and b. Suppose a is equal to $a and b is equal to $b. Okay, that is one option here. Actually, suppose we are configuring another function, calculator, and this is not having any parameter. And here we can put console.log, and we can put some messages. You try this type of approach by designing them inside the class declarations. You try that. If you try with the class declarations and configure them, it will work. You once try that. So then you can achieve what I asked you to do, right? That you try with your classes and polymorphism. Then it is easy for implementation. Okay. I will show you if you are unable to do it, right? How to achieve that. Right? But I given one more hint that you try in this way. That will be better. Okay. Others also tried. Have you practiced this? Have you tried this? That means overloading as a separate memory allocation, right? Separate memory allocation. If you do with separate memory allocation, it will work simply. You don't need to think much. about that. It will work simply. Hmm? Think one more time and try. So still not possible, then I will show you how we can manage that. Huh? Right. Now, after understanding about how do we deal with, after understanding about how do we deal with the general approach of the polymorphism functions and all. So what are the topics we learned in our object oriented programming? So we learned about contracts, templates, inheritance, polymorphism, and all these basic things that we need. We will use them in our Angular regularly. We will use them in examples. Then you will understand in real time where we can implement them in a project, means in an application. In Angular, we are going to use all this. Huh? Right. Now, next important we need to know here is, after understanding this, we need to know about another important concept, that is generics in TypeScript. So while working with object oriented, one more important we need to understand about generics. Technically, how we can work with generics and use generics. Actually, so what is the concept of generics and how do we use it? So the key important point you need to know is, actually generic is type safe. Generic is type safe. Actually, the term generic means type safe. Generic means type safe. That means you can configure any component as a component as type safe component. You can configure any component as type safe component. But important is, however, so it can use type assertion, right? So type assertions, I told you. However, it can use strongly typed feature for components when it knows the type of value to deal with. That is important. I will tell you the situation actually. What is that and how do we handle it, right? So we will see that detailedly. We will discuss about this. So the actual point here is generally. So what you need to understand here detailedly is, we have any type. Any is a root type for all types. Generally, if I have to handle various types of values, immediately the first option comes is better use any type. Immediately that point will come, that if you want to handle different types of values, you can use any type. That is the general thing, regularly comes every time. But when I use any type, one of the problem is it can handle various types of values. That means once I keep an integer, next time I can keep a string into it. Next time I can keep a boolean into it. It should not be like that. So initially, I don't know the type of value. That means initially we are not sure about the type of value. what type of value it is. We are not sure about the type of value. But once we know the type of value, we should not allow any another type of value. Another type of value. Then you can do that by using generics. By using generics. So actually, the concept of generic is nothing but the data type is initially not known to the compiler. When the value is provided according to the value type, it can fix the data type for any reference and make it strongly typed. Make it strongly typed. That is advantage. That means the data type, the data type, the data type initially not provided, not provided. That means the data type initially not known to compiler. So the data type is initially not known to compiler. When a value is provided, when a value is provided according to the requirement, according to the value type, it can fix the data type of any reference, and will not allow any another type. That is actually generic can do. I will show practically, then you can understand. Actually, TypeScript can use generics for properties. It can use generics for properties, for methods, or for even classes and classes. Properties, methods, and classes. How it can handle them and how it can use them. Let's see how we can handle and use them. TypeScript can use generics for properties, methods, and classes. It can use for all of them. So how it handles them? So how it uses them? Let's see the situation. All right. Initially, so I will first show you without the generics what is the problem, and with generics what we can achieve actually. So let's put generics. Okay. And create a new file here, demo.ts. Okay. In this, first what we are doing is we are designing a simple function. Okay. This function is expecting some, that means we are creating a function. So function name as print message. Okay. This function, so print value. Okay, this is the function. That is the function print value. We configured it this. And here, so we are defining, so A. And here, if I fix this as a string, then it will always allow only string. And if I fix this for a number, so if I fix this for number, it will use always only number. It will use always only number. So that means if it is string, it will be string. It will be number. It will be number. It will fix to that particular type actually. It will fix to the particular type. So if I keep any, then we have problem. Problem is it will handle. It will handle once. It will handle a number. Another time it will handle a string. So it can change. It can change. You can ask for union of types. You can ask for union of types. But one of the problem with union of types, technically what is the problem with union of types is it will allow only those specific types. Only those specific types. Here the point is, initially I am not sure about what type of data will come. That is the key point here. I am not sure about what type of data will come. But if a data comes, it should able to handle that data. It should able to handle the data. So it should able to handle the data. So that is what important advantage is. So the main concept is, generics concept here is, the usage of generics is actually, generics allows to design the components, so that user can consume the component and use them for their own types. That we will see that practically. So let's see here one example. Suppose we are using print value. This print value doesn't know what type of value comes. Then what we have to do is syntactically. So generic types. So we define like this: function and function name, and it should use some parameter. We don't know what type of value will come, because generally in real time we work with APIs, services coming from third parties. They come from third party sources. When they come from third party sources, then we are not sure about what type of data is coming. Some object is coming, I don't know its type, because that we are not responsible for designing it, we are responsible for just only consuming it. Then we will make the function as a generic type. How? We can simply put, so here, type in the angle braces. This indicates that the function is a generic type, So remember, type is not a keyword, you can use any. We have an habit of writing type or T. T is referring to type. Then the parameter will be used for that type, and the return type also can be used for that type. That is just a reference, you can give any word, but traditionally for types we use T. And we can configure that. So that means now the point here is, what type of value? We need to configure the type of value. So here, observe here. That means while calling the function, what type you mention, these will be of that particular type. That looks great. That looks good. For example, see now. So here, print value, I will make it as generic type. And here, so here the argument. So this is the parameter. This parameter is of that particular type. And return type is also that particular type. And it has to obviously return that parameter. That means whatever the parameter you defined, it should return that parameter. That is the basic thing. Now observe carefully. What happens here is, I'm accessing console.log. I'm calling print value function, and it is expecting type. Here I will pass as a string data type, and you can observe carefully, automatically the parameter will be string type now, and the return type also string type. So that means the parameter is string type. And it can handle it. So that means this time now you have to pass the parameter as a string. That means so string value. Suppose I am calling that function again. That means print value again. But this time I passed a number type into it. Then the parameter will be now number type, and return type also will be number. It will not allow any another type of value. That's good. That means now what we are doing actually is, we are able to create a function which can change its behavior according to the type of object that comes in. You are not, and one more point is, once you say string, it will not handle another type. Now you may ask, like, why can't I use any type? Suppose I am using parameters like this. I am using parameters, function, name, and A as any type, and B as any type. So Now also it can handle any type of value now. What do you say? Yes or no? So we can handle any type of value now. Yes, right? That means we can handle any type of value. But what is problem in this? What is problem in this is nothing but, so A can be string, and now B can be number. Am I right? It can be like this because both are any type, na? Am I right? Both are any type. That means A can be string, B can be number. No, I don't want like that. If A is string, B also should be string. If A is number, then B also should be number. Understood my point? Right? If A is number, then B also should be number. So A is string, then B also should be string. Right? That is the approach we need to follow. That is the intention. That's the reason you cannot depend on any type. So you cannot depend on any type. We cannot configure on any type. That is what the problem you will face with any types. So then better what we have to do is, so better we can use this generic type. We can use generic type. So that is important. That means you can configure the generic type in this way. That means what we have to do is, this will work now initially. Let's run this and see. So and reveal here. I'm compiling this. Okay. So tsc and demo.ts and node demo.js, and it is working fine. It is using for string, it is using for number. It is performing those, means it is able to handle both of them. It is able to handle both of them. So that is how it can configure the generic. And that is how it can configure the generic. So that means the function can be generic. You can use for different values. You can handle the different functionalities. You can handle the different functionalities. That means, for example, now here what we are doing is we are writing a function. So print value. So writing another function. So print value. Print value is a function. And this is a function with type not known. Then we define T. And here we are adding these two values. That means A is of type T and B is of type T, and so return should be any type. Return should be any type. So that means return should be changing according to, return type should be changing according to this type A and type B, or you can fix it for a specific type. But generally, sometimes what we want is, we want functions in such a way that they can return different types of values according to the situation. Parameters are same type, but return type can be different. Then you can give any type. Now here, what we are doing is, we are writing a simple condition. If type of, so we have type of operator, right? If type of A, so type of A, if type of A is equal to a number, if type of A is equal to a number, so number, if type of A is equal to number, so number, you have to define that in the code, type of A equal to number, and type of B also equal to number. That means here, so another option, type of B is equal to number. Type of A and B are number. Then what should happen? Then it should calculate the sum of A and B. It should calculate the sum of A and B. It should calculate the sum of A and B. Now comes important problem is, when a type is not known, generally when a type is not known, else it should be concatenating. If they are string type, it should concatenate. If it is general number type, it should add. Now important here is, Whenever you are using generics usually cannot. Here I am trying to return. So return A plus B. You cannot use these operators on generic types. You cannot use operators on generic types. You cannot use operators on generic types. Why you cannot use operator on generic type? Because their value type is not known yet. Their value type will be known when you pass a value into it. The data type is not known, then you cannot perform any operators. Then how you handle operations? For that, you have to create functions again. We need to create functions. You cannot directly handle operations on generic type. That is another point you have to note is you cannot use any operator. You cannot use any operator on generic type. You cannot use any operator on generic types. So you have to handle all operations using functions. Using functions only you have to handle. You cannot directly use operators. You cannot use directly operators. That is important. That means now what we have to do here is this A plus B not possible because they are generic type. Then what we have to do now? We have to create one function. This function is sum. This function will take A. The type is not known, then it is any. And it will take B. B is also any. And what it should do is it should return A plus B. Okay. And I created another function that is concat. And concat is a function which will take A, any, and B, any. And what it will do is it will return. So A plus B, that means concatenation. That means I want to just define here. So first name is equal to $. So that is the value of A. And so last name, so that means I just given some /n, and the last name, so last name is equal to $. So that is B, value of B. That's how we need to define. Now these functions are accessed here. That means now what we have to do is return sum. Into the sum, we will pass A and B values into it. Now it is fine. We are passing in A and B values into this. A and B values into it. And if it is string, then what should happen? Return concat. It should concat the other values. If it is number, it will call the sum function. If it is a string, it will call the concat function. And into that, we have to pass A and B values. It will take them. That means now one function is working for different situations. Now one function is working for different situations. That means this print can print the sum of numbers. It can print the concatenation. So, but important is the type you have to pass into this. That means here we are using a simple console.log. We are calling the function print value. It is a generic type. We are passing, so number type. We are passing number type. And into that parameters, now you can see that the parameters A is number type and B also number type. A and B are number types. That means here I define 10, 20. That is the value. And console.log, and I defined print value. This is a string type. And now A and B are string type. And so here some typings like Tom, and another one is like some Hanks, like this. So that means we are passing two string type values into it. Now when I run this, so when we run this, and you can see that means generic types cannot handle directly operators. Generic types requires combination. It requires combination of functions. So this is generic type. That means now if it is number, it can accept only number. That means these will be fixed to that type. So now B cannot be a string. If A is number, if this is number, AB will be number. If it is a string, AB will be string. If it's Boolean, AB will be Boolean type. Now, when you run this here, you can see it should able to handle both of them. It should able to handle both of them. That means addition and these two. That means you can use that same function for different purpose now. That is what the advantage of generic. So that means it allows you to reuse the function with the same type of functionality or different functionality with same type of value or different types of value. That's what actually you can do. That means into the function, you can function into the function. So we can pass different types of values. So why this type of generic functions are required? Because when we are working in the real world environment, we have to work with remote data. So generally from API and services, then we don't know exactly from where data is coming. In that case, any type of data comes, we need to handle it. Any type of data comes, we need to handle it. So then we have to create these generic types. And very important here is generics are mostly used even with user defined types. That is what actually we need in real world very much. Generics are mostly used even with user defined types. User defined types means you can create your own type. You can create your own type and you can use for your own types. This is what generally we need, because actually means why this situation comes. That's what we are discussing, why we need this generic and situation comes here. Actually, in our Angular, later when we are using Angular, in Angular we will learn about HTTP services. So we have database and we have a server-side technology, some server-side technologies. Right now, these will use web services. So these will use web services or API services to communicate with them, get the data. So we have here some employee type data. We have some products type data. And important is in the service, there must be one service method. This method should able to handle both type of data. That means one method should be designed in such a way that it should able to handle any type of data coming in, and it should able to use the data. Then how you will create an object here? So this object can handle employees. Very important, if it is working for employees, it should be only for employees. It should not allow any another type. If it is product, only for product. That means this type of this type of approach you will observe in a concept called RxJS. Means asynchronous calls and creating observables to access the type and understand the type and use that. This you will learn in Angular. You will understand that. But this situation is important. That means in our application, there will be only one method which will be handling any type of data coming in. And these are not number type or string type. These are user defined type. Employee products are user defined type because you created your own types, and generic can be user defined type. Generic methods with user defined type. You can have generic methods with user defined type. So that is another option. That means generic methods with user defined type. How we can use generic methods with user defined type. I will show you one simple example how we can use user defined type. So that means here, let's create one more example here. So this is the example of generic methods, how we configure the generic methods, how to use the functions and access them. User defined type, our own types of data, how it can handle. For that, we need to create our own types first. I'm creating a contract here, interface I product is an interface. This I product is having a name, so it is a string type, and it is having price, this is a number type, and it is having in stock, that is a boolean type. And I have another contract, I employee is another contract. And this is having the name, which is a string type, and it is having designation, that is also a string type. Now I need to create a method which can, so that means I'm creating a function, get data, and I don't know what type of data they will send. Then I will make it as a generic type. And we are expecting an object. Of that particular type, And that object comes, I need to get the properties and values of that particular object and print it. That means I must be able to use it. Then we will use a for where. So property in obj. So we can print the properties and access them. Console.log. I'm here printing the property. So I'm printing the property dollar. So that is property. And I am printing the value. I will put a colon and I will put the value. That means obj of property, it will print the value. I'm writing the logic here. That means I created a method. This is a service method, which is expecting either product type data or employee type data. Any type data comes in, it should be able to handle it. It should read the object and use it. In that case, now here I am defining simple. What we are doing is console.log. First, I want to print some product details. I want to print some product details. Okay. And how we can call that? That means we need to get data. Get data is a method. So it is a generic method. You have to tell what type of data. What type of data? Type of data is I product type data. Okay. If it is I product type data, here it should be of product type only. OBJ should be product type. Then you know how do we pass the values. There are two techniques. Either you create it or you directly pass. Directly pass means here, how do we pass an object? And this object cannot have a designation because that is I product type. That means it is expecting only name. And what name? You have to define the name, TV. Okay. It is expecting price. Okay. The price you define. And it is expecting in stock. In stock is true. Only these values you can pass. Anything else other than that is not valid. That means this time you designed a generic method which can handle your own type of data. And obviously you have to pass the type of data. That means now get data is working for product type. Not only product type. So I want to print employee details. Console.log. I will put a simple separator here to separate those details. And I will just put again get data. This time it should work for I employee. So it should work for I employee. That means here we need to pass employee type data. Here I am entering price. It is not valid because here you can enter name. That is employee name, John. And here I can enter designation. Only these two properties allowed. And that should be some manager, something like this. That means you created a generic method which can handle user-defined data. That means your own type of data. You can handle your own type of data. That's how we are managing. That's how we are configuring. So that means now you can see here. So this is a generic method. The type is not a number type or a string type or any another type. It is predefined type. It is a user-defined type. This is how we use data in real world actually. Means generics in real world. we create one generic method which can catch any type of data coming in. Now observe here, this method can work for both products and employees. Compile and run this. It should work for both product and employees. It is printing the product details, it is printing the employee details. And this will be one key point for us in real world development process actually. Everywhere we will see that. Everywhere we will see that. That means while working with services, this type of approach is very important. So you can use generic. You can use generic with user-defined types. User-defined types. It's not that it should be always a number or a string type. You can create your own types. And this is how actually we use generics in our applications. We generally use in our applications. This is an example for generic with user-defined type. You can use any type of value. That means generic method can handle array type also. That means generic method handling array type. It can handle array type of value. But how we configure, that means everything is possible, but we have to just understand the situation, how to deal with that actually. How we can deal with that. That means how we can configure and work with that. All right. So that means, suppose, for example, now here we are handling a simple point. So that means arrays. So here I will create one simple product type. It can be any another type also, right? Okay. This is example already I given you. Okay. Another point here, another point is if we are dealing with array type of data, then how you will understand whether it is an array type or not. So if it is an array type, then array. If it is an object type, it is an object. That means it can have a combination of array and object. If you pass array, it will print array. If you pass object, it will print an object. So that means an object, it can be handled in several ways. Let's see that. For example, I'm creating an interface, iProduct again. And here I'm defining name as a string type and price as a number type, And in stock, this is a Boolean type. And here I'm creating a function. This time same, get data is the function. It's a generic type. And into that, we are passing obj. Obj is of that generic type. That object is expected with that generic type. Now, how you will know that whether it is an array or not? Tell me, how we can know that whether it is an array or object? How to know whether it is an array or object? What you can do? How do you know whether it is an array or not? Is there any possibility to know whether it is an array or not? How to know that this is an array or not? What you will use? Type of is to understand data type. So we learned a special operator called instance of. Remember? We learned a special operator called instance of. Instance of is used to verify whether the object is a array or right. That means now here we can use a simple option like if obj instance of array, then what should happen? If it is instance of array, then we are using a for. So where item of obj, of operator is for array, and we are printing console.log item, that is of operator used. If it is else not, it is an array. If it is an object, then we will use for where property in object, for where property in obj. In obj, we need to print the property and its value. Then here we use console.log here dollar. So property and colon and dollar. Here we define obj of property. That's how we need to configure. That means actually here our intention is very complicated actually. Our intention is that user can handle in several ways. He can pass some collection. He can pass some collection. He can pass one object. He can pass collection or one object. That means I can see different situations will come. Actually, what happens is when you are accessing data from service, so you return a simple approach like I want a list of all. That means you use the function means select a star from. That means it will get all of them. But in different occasions, we need to select only where ID is equal to some ID. That means uniquely you are pulling one data. This time it will return one. That means the result actually comes from different locations. The result will be in different way. Actually, what happens in general is from the database, we have a table, and from this table, one record may come or a collection may come. If one record comes, we have to print that record. If a collection comes, we need to print that collection. That means we are expecting one record or multiple records. Then there must be a method which will be able to handle both of them. If one record comes, it will handle it. If multiple record comes, it will handle it. We need to create a method in such a way that it can able to handle one or multiple. That is why I designed in this way. That means if it is an array, then read all the elements. If it is an object, just read the property and value. That's good. That means we are handling this situation. That means now how you will represent your data. Suppose I am creating LET. So this is product. Product is of what type? iProduct type. And here I am adding the details. Name as Nike casuals. Okay. And I am adding price as some price. So price. And I am adding in stock as like true, like this. This is one record is coming. But sometimes many records may come, like products of iProduct array type. That means an array of products is coming. So array of products is coming. That means it will have name, so TV. It will have price, some price. And it will have in stock, so true or false. And you are adding some name. This is like mobile. And this is price and this some price. And in stock, it is having some false like this. This is two types of data is coming from the same type. This is a product type. One record may come, multiple records may come. There must be one method which can handle both of them. That means this time console. So here I'm just printing console.log. So I'm writing here products list. That means I want to print the list of all products. I want to print the list of all products here. So then how you will print the list of all products here? Just what we can do is we can call get data, and get data into that we will pass an iProduct type. And this time it is an array type. That means it is expecting a products array. Have you seen this overloading? That means you need to pass a collection. Collection is we are already having products. It is a collection. That's good. This is product list. So console.log, I will just print a separator here. I want any specific product details. That means get data. And this time iProduct, that means only one. Then it is expecting only product type data. You cannot pass products into it because it is not expecting an array this time. It is expecting only one product and we are passing it. That means you designed a method in such a way it can handle one, it can handle multiple, it can change its situation. Now, very important is this is not only for products, for employees, because you designed this in such a way that it can handle any type of data. Employee data is coming, one employee, multiple employees. So if product data is coming, this is for everyone. It can handle everyone. Now you can see when I print this, when I access and print this, and you can see that it is working fine. That means it is able to handle them. That means it is printing all the records. It is printing the specific details of the records. So depending on the situation, we can manage. That's good. That's great. So that is what actually a generic function can do. A generic method can do. So generic method handling the array type. This is an example of handling an array type. That is what generic classes, generic methods, how we can manage and work with the generic methods. So technically, so we have a lot of other options also to handle. We can directly pass the data, or we can create an object and pass the data, right? We can directly pass the data. No? So no need to create an object here. And we can directly pass it. Suppose how we can directly pass it, the same situation here. So how you can directly pass, so instead of creating them, instead of creating these two, I can directly pass the data also. How we can directly pass the data? So I will copy this array. This is an array, right? Okay. Now what we are doing is, so it is expecting get data array, it is expecting collection. Then I can just simply put, here I can just simply put a square brace and put those products here. So we can directly manage it. We can directly manage that. If one product is expected, then we can just directly pass that one product here. So that means it is expecting name, that is mobile, and or some Nike shoe, and some price, and and it is expecting some in stock, so some true. It will get that and display. That means you can now remove this. This is just we created, and we can directly pass it also. We can directly pass it. So we don't need to create. That you can try. But this looks better because we are first collecting the data and configuring it, and later we are passing this into it. Dynamically also you can pass. That means this is a generic method which can handle any type of data. So collection, it can handle the collection. If it is a single object, it can handle the single object. It can manage all of them. So this is generic methods. Actually, a class also can be generic. A class also can be generic. So how a class is generic, and what is the advantages of having a class as generic classes, how this will work, that we will see tomorrow. Hope you understood this, and tomorrow we will finish with generic classes, and we will see enums and some other advanced options available in TypeScript. Tomorrow we will continue with that. Right.